Hey, what's going on, everyone? Greg here, and did you miss me? Because I missed you, and while missing you, we also missed another rumor dump. Can I say dump? Yes, I can. A rumor dump from Mark Gurman over at Bloomberg, giving us some of our first details on what we can expect out of a next generation MacBook Air, which sounds like the biggest update to the MacBook Air in years. And we may even see this MacBook Air sometime soon, possibly even this year. So for this video, let's go over all of those rumors, and I'll even address some of your concerns on if you should wait for this rumored next generation MacBook Air or just purchase the current M1 MacBook Air that's out now, which I called in my review possibly the best laptop ever made. All right, let's get into this. You all ready? Because I'm ready. So first off, Mark Gurman is just on fire here. He has been giving us sneak peeks into what's next from Apple, and if you want to read his full report on what's going on without any of my comments, I'll leave that article in the description below. Now, as you might guess, the next generation of the MacBook Air, according to Gurman, is going to be even thinner and lighter than the current iteration. It's also probably going to have an even smaller footprint as well, as Apple plans to shrink the bezels around the display, but unlike some of their other products where they tend to make the screen larger, the MacBook Air would be keeping the same 13-inch display and just reducing the overall volume of the device. Looking at the current size of the MacBook Air and imagining those black borders being shrunk a little bit, this MacBook Air sounds like it would be in between the physical size of the 12-inch MacBook, which was just super compact, and the current 13-inch MacBook Air, making it more portable than the current Air, but still having a bigger 13-inch display rather than what we got with the ultra slimmed down 12-inch MacBook. And this is a good decision by Apple. Now that they have the new M series architecture, they can make the laptop slimmer and lighter without having to worry as much about heat management in the laptop. And that's all thanks to Apple Silicon's amazing performance per watt advantage. So even though it's getting slimmed down and lighter, unlike past years where you might worry about thermals, this MacBook Air can now pack a punch, much like the current M1 MacBook Air. It also helps separate the lineup because right now the M1 MacBook Pro and MacBook Air look strikingly similar to each other, with both having the same screen size and a very similar overall physical footprint. The Air should be the smaller and lighter machine compared to the Pro model, and some increased separation and differentiation here should make it a less confusing lineup overall. Now, that's not the only changes being made to the MacBook Air. Just like I reported on last week, Magsafe is coming back to the 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pro, rumored to be coming out sometime this year, and it looks like that Magsafe port will also be coming back to the MacBook Air. For those of you that don't know, Magsafe is a charging port that has a magnetic connection on the cable, and that connects to the MacBook. So if you accidentally yank your cord or trip over it, the weaker magnetic connection would gently separate from the power port and save your laptop from crashing down from the table. Gurman says this version of Magsafe should look very similar to the last generation port, which was on Apple's laptops before they removed the port on the 2016 MacBook Pro. One benefit of the newer MagSafe connections is that they will be able to charge the MacBooks at an even faster rate. Besides MagSafe, the next generation MacBook Air will still come with a pair of USB 4 USB-C ports. And while there are rumors for the next MacBook Pro bringing back an SD card slot, there's no mention of this revision on the MacBook Air. So we're not really sure if the MacBook Air will be getting an SD card slot, but based on the rumors right now, it doesn't look like it will. It's good that Apple is bringing back some of these connections though, as many users have been upset with the removal of these ports, and a lot of MacBook owners had to go out and buy a separate dongle or dock to bring back some of those older ports they were used to using. Even if the Air is just getting MagSafe and not an SD card slot or a USB-A port or HDMI or something like that, it's still going to be a better experience because you'll have a dedicated charging port and still have access to both of those USB 4 slots. Whereas with the current models, if you want to charge your laptop and use it at the same time, you would be using one of those USB-C ports. and that would just leave you with one external connection. So even if it's just getting MagSafe, it's still a better option for most users. Perhaps the most exciting change isn't even the new design or MagSafe returning, but that Apple is also planning to bring a next generation M series chip into the next generation MacBook Air. We've heard rumors on what the M1X or the M2 chip could bring in terms of power for the MacBook Pro, but it's uncertain if the MacBook Air will receive the same processor as those more beefed up Pros or a weaker version based on that chip. In any case, the M1 MacBook Air is already powerful enough for tasks like 4K video editing, and it stands to reason that the next generation chips will give the Air even more of a performance boost. Another interesting tidbit from this report is that Apple is also planning on introducing a 15-inch version of the MacBook Air. However, Gurman says that Apple, at least for now, isn't moving forward with the 15-inch design for this next generation refresh, but he doesn't say the design is completely off the table. This is very interesting and not exactly unprecedented, as there used to be two versions of the MacBook Air for sale, an 11-inch model and a 13-inch model. If Apple is indeed making the 13-inch size smaller, they could also introduce a MacBook Air that has a slightly bigger footprint than the current model by shrinking the bezels and expanding the chassis, and that would give you a 15-inch MacBook Air, but still in a relatively small size for a 15-inch laptop. A 15-inch Air might sound weird at first, but the MacBook Air is Apple's best-selling laptop, and the most popular Mac they sell by far. And there's definitely a market for people who want a larger laptop display, but don't need all the extra power and bells and whistles and increased price of the MacBook Pro. This would be a great entertainment laptop, and with the power of Apple Silicon, it could probably stand out to be a pretty great entry-level laptop for pros as well. Now, for those of you who just purchased an M1 MacBook Air or are thinking about purchasing one, you might be wondering if that was a good choice with a rumor of a new MacBook Air on the horizon. Well, there's a couple things you need to know, and maybe this will actually put your mind at ease. The first thing is that this redesign of the MacBook Air is described as being a higher end version of the current MacBook Air. This means that the pricing for this model will, in all likelihood, be higher than the base model $1,000 M1 MacBook Air. If I had to guess, I imagine this model would replace the current 13-inch M1 MacBook Pro in the lineup, and maybe it would retail for around $1,300, because Gurman also notes in this report that the base model MacBook Air, the current one that's available now, will be sticking around as the entry-level model. So if you were considering buying an M1 Air or already bought one, know that this next version isn't a direct replacement of that laptop, and the base model will still probably end up being a good value even if you purchase it today. Secondly, Gurman is reporting that this MacBook Air could be out as soon as the second half of this year at the earliest. Now, Apple may push the Air all the way back to 2022, as the report indicates, so the timetable of when this product will actually be released seems less certain than the other rumored redesigns of the next generation iMac and MacBook Pro. And while Apple may be trying to get this next generation Air ready for sometime this year, we also know that Apple has a long history of delaying products if they're not ready yet. So while we could optimistically see a MacBook Air emerge sometime this year, in all likelihood, you may have to wait longer if you're planning on upgrading or purchasing this revision. So make sure you factor that into your future purchasing decisions. But yeah, this next generation MacBook Air sounds really great, honestly. It sounds like it's fixing some of the issues users didn't like about the previous generation and taking advantage of Apple Silicon to bring in a smaller and lighter form factor without having to sacrifice on either power or battery life. And the rumors of the 15-inch Air that may come out sometime in the future makes me really excited overall for the future of the Mac lineup, as it seems like Apple is a lot more interested in bringing new ideas over to the Mac lineup rather than what seemed like some stagnant years during the 2016 MacBook Pro era. But anyway, that's all the new information we have about the next MacBook Air, and I want to know, what do you think about these leaks and rumors in the comments below? Also, if you like this video, well, be sure to give me a like. If you want to see more from my channel, make sure you subscribe. If you want to help the channel out in any way or follow me over on Twitter or Instagram, make sure you check out the links in the description. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.